Yes, finally, UFC 280, everybody. This is the card of the year. This is the best one. This one has got all the talent. This one's got all the great matchmaking. Abu Dhabi, stand up. You guys are ready for the best card of the year. 2 title fights. We got Petrosyan versus Sean O'Malley. We've got Dariush versus Gamrot. We've got Chookagian versus Fiorot. We got Brady versus Muhammad. We got Krylov versus Oezdemir. We've got a really, really sick lineup of fights. And personally, I've had almost no action over the last 2 events. They were cards that I was just kind of staying away from. Not a lot of high-level talent, a lot of unknowns when it came to betting the fights. And sometimes when there's a lot of unknowns, I'm happier just staying away from it. So, but this time, man, I'm unloading the shotgun with both barrels this week. I probably am thinking I'm going to have over 25 units on this card by the time it's all said and done, after having 2 units on the last card and after having maybe 4 on the card before that. It's all about opportunity. It's all about seeing lines that are in your favor. And when you have a card like UFC 280, where you have so many experienced fighters and a nice sample size of statistics to draw from, man, I'm telling you, this is the card. I want this to be my biggest week of the year. I'm trying to win 10 units this week, and I can't wait to get into it with you guys, to go over all 13 of these fights from a statistical and tape study perspective, go over the track bets that I already have for this week, talk about the ones that I'm also looking at. We're going to look at my stats that are always available for download for free in the description of the video. Also, we're going to take a look at the prop template, which is on the Patreon, which you can see the ticker on the screen right now. The Patreon, $5 a month for the stats that you see here on this show, but you'll be getting them a week earlier every week rather than having to wait till every Tuesday to get them on in the description of the video for just the tip. So check out the Patreon, check out the prop template, check out the stats that are available every week. And we're going to go through all these stats. We're going to go through the props. We're going to go through the tape study notes. We're going to go through the numbers, and we're going to try to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 280. And this is such a good card from start to finish. And I think there are a lot of spots that I like. So we'll talk it over together and see if we can find ways to beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them and then enjoy that fresh squeezed juice right in front of them as they're writhing in pain on the floor in front of us. Because that's the goal of Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy, for us to enjoy some fresh squeezed juice at the expense of the people who take our bets and we wind up taking their money. So let's get it. What's happening with all of you guys here in the chat today? I see that my guy Mushroom is the first one in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy? What a card. Lots of violence. Let's fucking go. Let's get it for UFC 280. My guy Daz Files in the room saying, "Let's go. UFC 280. Even my grandma is watching." Everybody's going to be watching. We got Bob Spikerman saying, "What's up, Weezy, my man? Damn, this card got me anxious as a ma. I got crazy units on the line, so let's stack the shit out of these flapjacks. Let's do it." I'm going to have so many more units on this card than any other card this year. And then my guy Victor de Jesus saying, "Oh, yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? Super excited for this weekend. I'm busy as hell at work, but won't be able to chat much at all. I'm here listening. Best of luck to everybody. Best of luck to you too, Victor. I know that we've got some of the same bets this week." And Daz File saying to Victor, "Best of luck to you and hope you can take a mental health break and let us in on your plays." And Victor's saying, "What's up? Thanks, man. Good luck to you as well. Let's break these bookies. Let's do it." Jenna Doyle in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Jenna? Good to see you hanging out." We got M.A. Lyron saying, "Oi, here we go. Waiting for Unc Easy to preach with my bookie tab open. Let's commemorate this stacked UFC 280 cards by stacking up 280 units with piles of check flapjacks. Let's do it. Absolutely, M.A. Laren. I can't wait to make some money on this card. Victor De Jesus saying, sorry, Weezy didn't see your message on Twitter till just now. I see Dobson first round KO plus 850. That's something I might put a quarter of a unit on or an eighth of a unit on. I think that's absolutely his best win condition. And he's so dangerous early in fights. And Petrosyan's not going to try to take him down and smother him like Malkoun did. He's going to stand in front of him and try to outbox him at range. So if Dobson can land one of those big hammers, we probably could see a first-round knockout here. Dude's got the power to do it. I'm going to take a look at that prop. That is a nice one for this week. We got Travis M saying, oi, loved seeing you on Clint's show yesterday, Uncle Weezy. Absolutely, man. Yeah, I want to thank my guy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast over on Pub Sports Radio for having me on. We broke down this card, all 14 fights that were on yesterday, but now we've lost the Mustafayev Nishikawa fight. So we're going to have to wait until 2027 now to watch Magomed Mustafayev fight, and he will be 40 years old then. Thanks for saying that, though, Travis. And if you guys haven't checked out the Die Hard, I got the link in the description of this video. We got Prince of Mischief saying, oi, what's the deal with Hasbulla, Weezy? I don't get it. What's so entertaining about him? I can't get my head around why people are fascinated with this kid. Please explain. Yeah, I don't think he's a kid. I think he's like an adult in a kid's body, like a Gary Coleman kind of thing. And I think he's kind of like the Dagestani Gary Coleman. Only this Gary Coleman is Dagestani and he likes to smack around other people that have the same ailment as him. Yeah, so because of what I just said, I don't get it either. I just don't. But yeah, I guess is it bullshit that the UFC signed him? I mean, is he really going to fight somebody? Oh God, I just feel like we're all going to lose our souls if that dude gets into a cage and fights anybody. Anybody who watches it is going to have to answer to some kind of a higher power at some point in their lives. And I'm not here to tell you that there is one. I'm not here to tell you to repent or to do anything to get in the best graces of your higher power, because it's not my job to tell you to do that. And I'm just as guilty as the rest of you. So I don't know what we're going to do here, man. But I can only tell you this, Prince of Mischief, and that's I have no idea either, man. I don't get it. So somebody's going to have to fill us in about that. Any Action MMA saying, oh, hey, what's up, dude? And we got my guy Addicted to Combat saying, what's up, Patrick? Good to see you in here. Take No Prisoners saying Oliveira all day. We got Melon JS with the gi, with the money flying, and something else, which I can't see on my screen because it's so small. Melon, thank you for hanging out. We got Nigel Lee saying, what up, Weezy and gang? Oh, what's up, Nigel? It's good to see you here, man. And Daz File saying, as Islam every other day. And we got Jarno saying, oh, man, this card is pure fire. Let's go. We got Mr. Finland in the room. Always good to see him in here. We got Addicted to Combat saying, that Prince of Mischief, I'm pretty sure Hasbulla is my illegitimate son. No anti-Hasbulla talk here, please. And we got Take No Prisoners. No way Islam becomes champion in his wet dreams only. We got Mushroom saying at Victor De Jesus, at Nigel Lee, at Moneybank Locks, at Daz, what's up, D-Gens? We got Kevin saying, hit a crazy, wow, plus 41,699 D-Gen parlay for the UFC Vegas 62. Even made it to the big hitters segment on the MMA Hour under Gambler's Inferno. Just wanted to say, listening to you helped. Thank you, Kevin. That is an amazing parlay to hit. 42,000 or 41,700. My God, is that nuts, dude? That's like 417 to 1. $10 would have paid you 4,170. That's just fantastic stuff. Kevin, big ups to you, my man. That is the kind of hit we love hearing about on Just the Tip. We got Victor De Jesus saying, what's up to Mushroom? We got Daz File saying, hey, Mushroom. Hey, Parlay King Legend. We got Jared Curry in the room saying, what's up, y'all, and Mushroom. We got Nigel Lee saying, what's up to Mushroom. We got Papa Chuck saying, guess what this is? Oi, oi, oi. Oi, oi. That is 5 strikes that didn't land thrown by Katlyn Chookagian. Manon does it too, though. Manon yells she kias with every strike too. So that is going to be one of the loudest fights that has ever happened in the women's division. We got DFS by the numbers saying it's officially Malcolm Gordon fight week. Canada, our neighbors to the north, stand up. Your boy is about to get his ass shaved by one Muhammad Mokaev, who is one hell of a prospect. We got Mushroom saying, what's up to Papa Chuck? We got Adam Rush saying, oi, yes, glad I could catch the stream live for this huge card. This is the best card of the year. And we got Zero Mieto in the room saying, I'm pre-lubed and ready to insert. This is somebody right here. Everybody take notes. This is somebody who came prepared for just the tip, pre-lubed, ready to insert. And we're going to be putting it in one of the orifices of the bookies who are dumb enough to take our bets this week. Zero, good to see you in here, man. Papa Chuck saying, what's up? We got Chris Kalanzis in the room saying, let's get that cheddar. 12 units this weekend for Uncle Weezy this weekend. Let's get it, man. We got Juicy J in the room saying, what's up, Weezy? What's up, Juicy J? Thanks for hanging out with us here. We got Prince of Mischief saying, not hating Patrick. I just don't see what everyone likes about him. I just feel like people are laughing at him, not with him. And that's it. Can't wait to see your panel this week, Pat. Yeah, man, I'm going to be with Pat actually on the Couch Warriors show tomorrow night breaking down this card. Antonio Esparza in the room saying, first time viewing, bro. Thanks for joining us, Antonio. Hopefully you have a great time today watching this one and breaking down these 13 fights with us. We got Juicy J as the matchmaker saying Mike Jackson versus Hasbulla up next. I love it, man. Zero saying Dana is turning MMA into a clown show. A little bit, man. A little bit. Daz File saying it's a little sad the poor guy being used for entertainment. It's like we're living in the 50s. Yeah, kind of, man. We got Matthew Chalk saying, hey, Weezy, what's up, dude? Mushroom saying, what's up to Jared? We got Tristan Tate in the room saying, what are your thoughts on the top G with what is the top G with O'Malley and Aljo? O'Malley and Aljo, they're not fighting each other. I don't know what the top G is actually, Tristan. But I can't wait to talk about the O'Malley Jan fight and the Aljo TJ fight. But yeah, I don't know what's going on there with O'Malley and with O'Malley and Aljo. Araldis Zonman saying 5 into 150 from an 8-legger this past card and 500 into 1,300 from Haney and Shields. Decision in boxing. Araldis taking care of business. We got Jared Curry saying, got the butterflies in my stomach for this card, and it's only Tuesday. I cannot wait for Saturday. I got that with you, man. Travis saying, guys, it's almost time for UFC 280. The MMA gods blessed us. Yes, they did. Local man shakes fist saying, but what if the bookies aren't dumb enough to take our bets? Another 2 capped me last week. Thanks a lot, Weezy. Another 2 capped me last week. Yeah, I got smoked last week. I fucking had Victor Henry fucking blowing up my day. 5.5 unit swing turned a 3.5 unit win into a 2 unit loss thanks to Victor blowing that one. So I'm right there with you, local man shakes fist, but there weren't any good fights on that card. So there's a lot better ones on this one. Let's get it, man. We got Clay saying, hola, saw Stat Diggers, but haven't seen Probability yet. Dude, Probability, the link to that is in the description of this video, Clay. You can check it out after we're done here. And we got Usman Anjum saying top G is Andrew Tate. Okay, I don't know. I don't know much about this Andrew Tate dude other than some people seem to hate him. But he's a kickboxer. He says a lot of controversial shit, but I don't know. I don't know anything about it. So, but thanks for filling me in about who top G is. Okay. And Usman saying, LOL, Tristan commenting that. Kevin Nicholson, PT, saying TJ looks solid for his fight with Sterling, but that knee, he had a major reconstruction. TJ's inactivity plus this crazy surgery. No thanks. Give me Sterling by sub. It's going to be a hell of a fight, Kevin. I can't wait for that one, man. And Clay saying, yeah, I would have been up 4 digits instead of 2 if Henry hadn't dropped the ball. Yeah, I would have just had a really nice day and hit the greasy 4-legger at plus 650. But, you know, this is why we bet on this sport, because there's this kind of variance, because it's that it's that much parity and it's that much fun, dude. You know, Victor Henry has made the list. He's right under the name. Abdul Razak Al Hassan on guys that I'll never bet on or against ever again. Like Victor Henry fights, they don't even exist to me anymore in the UFC because, you know, the guy beats somebody way over his head, and then when he gets in there against the guy whose career is over with, he looks like total trash. So, yeah. Jan KO, Dillashaw decision, Oliveira Makhachev fight ends by submission. I think those are great looks. Uncertainty saying, Uncle Weezy, who's going to be Victor Henry this week? Because every single week there's always one big favorite to lose. Yeah, maybe this week it's Petrosyan if Dobson catches him with a shot early. Abubakar Nurmagomedov can always drop the ball as a favorite. Could see Tukhugov losing to Almeida because Almeida's got a ton of power. Could see Borralho losing to Muradov if he's unable to get the takedown. Chookagian could get a bullshit decision over Fierro. That's happened more than a couple of times. But yeah, it's hard to know, man. It's hard to know who's going to be the big one to drop the ball. If we knew that every week, we'd be taking care of business every damn week, stealing money. We got Lou Betya in the room saying, oh, what's up, Lou? Check him out on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. And UFC Sharpest saying, Weezy, let's get sleazy. And when we make it rain, may it be extra breezy. I think that is a perfect way to start off this one. Let's go, you guys. Let's start with the first fight out of 13. It's going to be Lina Lansberg going up against Karol Rosa. Karol Rosa minus 335 favorite. Lina Lansberg plus 275. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 190. Let me see here, you guys. Get that up. 57 of you guys ready to roll with me tonight and break down this card. So we're going to do it starting with this fight. The measurables, you got to love Rosa here. Even though she's 2 inches shorter than Lina Lansberg, she's 13 years younger, and she's got a 2-inch reach advantage. She also has 3 more professional fights, about 15 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost a year more as a pro. But it's Lina Lansberg with the UFC experience advantage with 4 more fights and about almost 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Karol Rosa who's got a 40% finish rate, just like Lansberg does. Neither one of these ladies has ever finished a UFC win. And we've got both of them have been finished in half of their pro losses. Karol Rosa has been subbed twice, and Lina Lansberg has been knocked out 3 times. If we look at the striking numbers, what the biggest difference between these two ladies for me is the minute winning potential of Karol Rosa by outlanding her opponents and outvoluming her opponents. As we see, Lina Lansberg is absorbing about 1.15 more significant strikes per minute than she lands, and her opponents are throwing 7.16 strikes per minute, while Lansberg's throwing just under 5. So Lansberg, very low volume, and she's getting outstruck and outvolumed by her opponents on the feet. But with Rosa, we've got a positive 2.2 significant strike differential, and she's throwing over 3 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents. So she throws a lot more volume, and she lands a lot more than her opponents do. So she's done a very good job of winning minutes on the feet. She's also a little more defensively responsible than Lansberg, and neither one of these ladies has ever been knocked down. And when it comes to the grappling, we see that Rosa's out-controlling her opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, and Lina Lansberg's being out-controlled at about a 1.5 to 1 ratio by her opponents. But they're also out-takedowning her at a 3-to-1 ratio, so she's kind of efficient, but she's losing a lot of minutes on the ground here. 43.82% control time allowed, while for Rosa, it's only 14.6% control time allowed. So it's definitely been a problem for Lansberg getting off the fence, getting off the mat when her opponents take her there. And Lansberg is somebody who's a very good Muay Thai striker and has a lot of power on the feet. But as we can see, she's only spending about 74% of her fights are taking place in control time positions. So that means only about 26% of her fights actually take place standing. And Karol Rosa's got really good takedown defense at 72%. The only person who's ever taken her down was Sarah McMahon. Everybody else has really not had any success getting her to the ground. So when it comes to the strength of schedule here, we see that the ratio is a little bit better for Lina Lansberg overall, and the total fights a little more experienced competition for Lina Lansberg thus far. But in the wins, Rosa's got the better ratio, but it's Lansberg who's beating the more experienced competition. So you gotta love the measurables here for Rosa being 13 years younger, having that 2-inch reach advantage. She's also got the overall experience advantage and even been fighting for longer than Lina Lansberg. We see that Rosa getting her takedowns at a 50% clip. So if she doesn't like how it's going on the feet, she could probably get some takedowns here against Lansberg, who's showing a 48% takedown defense. So I think there's multiple ways for Karol Rosa to win this fight, and I think that she's going to win it by decision. When we look at the prop template for this fight, we can see here that the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 190. The fight goes over at minus 250. So this one, these ladies have went to decision in 12 of their 14 UFC fights, 85.7% of the time. And these ladies have been finished in 5 of 10 pro losses, but they've only been finished at the UFC level in 2 of 6 losses. So with a pretty good sample size of fights, these numbers, 14% and 12% here and 23% and 16.5% here, indicate that even though these lines are overpriced by 8% and 4% compared to the benchmark for the division, that these ladies are going over at a much higher rate than what the implied probabilities of the lines are. So definitely like the over 2.5 sitting at minus 275 here as a parlay piece. That's one of the parlay legs in this week's probability parlay. And the link to probabilities in the description of this video if you want to check that out. But also, I believe that if you like that Rosa side, take Rosa to win by decision. It's minus 120 instead of minus 335, which we see on the screen right now for the straight up money line. And since neither one of these ladies has ever finished one of their UFC opponents, why not take that minus 330, get it down to minus 125 for Rosa's best win condition, which is by decision. So that's the pick. It's going to be Karol Rosa by decision. The next fight that we're going to look at here is Mokaev going up against Malcolm Gordon. And my guy DFS by the numbers said it best earlier. Canada, stand up. It's Malcolm Gordon fight week. And Malcolm Gordon fight week will probably last less than 5 minutes when it actually gets into the cage, because Muhammad is just much better than this kid, frankly. Not really. I think Malcolm might actually be the better distance striker, you know. He's decent on the feet, but he's just so chinny that, and whenever he's on the feet, anything that he absorbs could potentially end the fight. And then if you want to compare the wrestling chops of these two guys, they're not even on the same stratosphere. So Mokaev is 10 years younger. It's Gordon who's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Gordon who's got 10 more fights and 2 more fights at the UFC level, about 30 more minutes in the pro cage, about 6 more minutes in the UFC cage. Gordon with the better finish rate overall, but also Gordon's not durable at all, as he's been finished in all of his pro losses. Like I said, when it comes to the striking, might actually be Malcolm Gordon that is the better distance striker here. But Mokaev is not going to let you, if you are the better striker, he's not going to let you strike with him. Because we can see right here in his 2 fights at the UFC level thus far, controlling his opponent 75% of the time, being controlled less than 3% of the time. So, about 1 out of every 5 seconds is spent at distance striking range. And Mokaev can just kind of drown you with takedowns, and you'll just wear him like a backpack. He's going to stick to you like glue, and he can just work a very boring game plan and remove your ability to do anything offensive with his wet blanket grappling. So, you got to love this spot for Mokaev. From what I've seen on tape from Gordon at the UFC level, is that the offensive wrestling really isn't there. He kind of needs mistakes from his opponents in order to get takedowns. And he's showing 0% takedown defense thus far at the UFC level. All 4 takedown attempts against him have been successful. So you got a guy who can't stop takedowns going up against a guy in Mokaev who's getting his takedowns at a 46% clip and is averaging 11.27 takedowns per 15 minutes. So you got 11.27 takedowns per 15 minutes against a guy who's got 0% takedown defense. And while this is on the feet, you have perhaps the most undurable guy, or to be better with the English, the least durable guy in the flyweight division. So, you know, how does Malcolm Gordon win this fight? Like I said on Stat Diggers, does a Raven have to fly into the arena and pluck out Muhammad Mokaev's ear, you know, to take his eye out? You know, does he have to shit himself due to food poisoning? I mean, I don't know how Malcolm Gordon wins this fight, and I'm not going to try to rack my brain to find more and creative ways for that to happen. The line tells you everything that you need to know. Minus 1,200 right now is the money line on Muhammad Mokaev. So Muhammad Mokaev by ass shaving. I think he probably finishes it in the first or second round. I'll say by submission. I'll say Muhammad Mokaev by submission. We'll call it a first round submission. Let's see here. We got Burgundy Bets in the room saying thank you, Unc. What's up, Burgundy Bets? We got DFS by the number saying Mokaev KO plus 300 is interesting. That is interesting because Malcolm has lost 4 of his 5 fights by KO, and because he's getting knocked down on 7% of the strikes that he's absorbing, or I'm sorry, on 2% of the strikes that he's absorbing, you got to like the chances for Muhammad to land a big shot and get him with a knockout. I just think he's probably going to take him down and submit him, but it could be a ground and pound knockout too. So to get a minus 1,200 guy against a guy who has been finished in all of his losses, and then to get 1/2 of the possibilities of finishes, whether it's sub or KO, at plus 300, it's not a bad way to play it. And I think he also said here, not even convinced Gordon shows up Saturday. It's just such a bad matchup for him. And I think that we've got Pablo Diablo saying, if Mokaev beats the undefeated GOAT, I'll cut off 1/3 of my unit. Don't do that. Don't do that. Nobody's going to hold you to that, Pablo. You know, like if Mokaev goes out there and slips on a banana peel, nobody's going to be coming in and playing Uncle Weezy's Just a Tip and saying, we got to find Pablo Diablo and make sure that he comes through with his promise, because nobody wants to see that. Nobody needs that. That benefits nobody. All right. But what does benefit people is analyzing fights here on Just a Tip and figuring out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on them. And the next one that we need to do is Armen Petrosyan versus AJ Dobson. Let's see here. Oh, and we here was the look on this one. So Malcolm Gordon plus 800, Muhammad Mokaev minus 1,200. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting up at minus 230 for that one. And for this fight, we got AJ Dobson as the underdog at plus 166. Armen minus 191. The fight doesn't go at minus 260. All these lines are courtesy of BetOnline.ag. Unofficial. No, they're not a sponsor of the show. But you know who is a sponsor of the show? Uncle Weezy's Patreon. The best Patreon in the world. Uncle Weezy's Patreon. That's the only sponsor that I have. Nobody else is willing to sponsor me, which is a shame. It really is. You would think that the Manscaped people would be like in their marketing rooms going, how are we not sponsoring Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week? Are we stupid? Do we hate money? Do we have the worst marketing department in the world? The answer to all three is obviously yes, because they're not sponsoring the show. But, you know, this isn't my fault. I have a marketing degree from the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies. So, I don't know. get these pricks on the horn. Somebody's got to sponsor this show. Otherwise, I'm going to be on the corner of Diversity in California saying, we'll analyze MMA for food. So somebody step up and help out, huh? Okay, Petrosyan Dobson. This is a banger. We really got a striker versus striker matchup here. And Petrosyan, the much cleaner, much more technical striker. But Dobson is a terrifying dude with terrifying power. So I'm looking really forward to this fight because I think somebody's going to get served in this one. But we can see here on the measurables that Petrosyan listed as 2 inches taller, but it's AJ Dobson who has a 5-inch reach advantage, and he's a shade younger here. Petrosyan's got a couple more pro fights and about 30 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's also got one more fight at the UFC level and about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both of these dudes are stud finishers. 86% all by KO for Petrosyan, 83% for Dobson, half by knockout, 33% by submission. Petrosyan has been knocked out once. It was on the regional scene in Fight Nights Global to, I believe, Hassan Yousefi. First round knockout. So that's why I like this. When Vic was mentioning that he saw the Dobson first round KO at plus 850. If you look at AJ Dobson and his history as a mixed martial artist, let's go down here. So Dobson has 6 wins, right? Round 1 against Arkaga, round 1 against Katlyn Hill, round 1 against Wes Golden, decision against Montreal James, round 1 against Willie Whitehead, and round 1 against JT Miller. So every single win that wasn't by decision for Dobson was in the first round. Every single finish loss for Armen Petrosyan is in the first round. Now, there's only one. It's to Hassan Yousefi, 7-3 over here at AMC. And Yousefi now is 8-5, you know, so it's like he got that win and then he lost 2 in a row to Vagabov, who's 28-1. Vagabov's a stud. And then to that name there that I'm not even going to attempt right here in UAE Warriors. So that's a Central Asian name if I've ever seen one. What Central Asian country is that dude out of? Yep, he is out of Kazakhstan. So anyway, we know that is how Petrosyan's been finished, and it's how Dobson finishes fights. So if you want to get a guy right now in Dobson who's sitting at plus 166 on the money line and get him by his best win condition and bet against Petrosyan for his best losing condition, first round knockout for Dobson would be the way to go. A fat prop that you don't have to put much money on. But when it comes to the striking, you got to give Petrosyan the advantage. Even here at the UFC level, he's landing 5.17 per minute and only absorbing 2.26. And he's throwing about 4.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than are coming back his way. So Armen Petrosyan is just a fantastic distance striker. He uses his kicks very well, has a lot of power, puts together combinations, and has good footwork to move laterally. So he's not standing in one place and is there to be hit. AJ Dobson showing about a 40% striking defense thus far at the UFC level, landing a little bit more than he absorbs, throwing a little bit more than he absorbs. Nice power numbers as he has 1 knockdown in 2 fights, and Petrosyan has 1 knockdown in 3 fights. Neither one of these guys has ever been knocked down, but Petrosyan throws more, he lands more, he absorbs less. He's got about a 15% better striking defense. So I've got to give Petrosyan the striking advantage. And then as far as the grappling goes, Dobson has been controlled 48% of his UFC career, and Petrosyan has been controlled 44% of his UFC career. So both of these guys have had trouble stopping takedowns and getting back up after they do get taken down. But neither one of these guys is attempting a lot of takedowns. Dobson's attempted 2 in 2 fights. Petrosyan's attempted 0 in 3 fights. So if there's one guy who's more likely to grapple here to try to win minutes, it's probably AJ Dobson. Can we count on him to do it? Probably not, but maybe he will. If he doesn't like how it's going on the feet, you might as well try to take down Petrosyan because the guy's showing a 30% takedown defense, and he's giving up about 9 out of every 20 seconds of his fights in control time positions being controlled. So if Dobson doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he can try to work in some wrestling. We just haven't seen much of it from him, so I don't know if we can count on that from him. As far as the strength of schedule goes, that's all Petrosyan, as we can see these great opponents in Robocop and Borralho. And then Dobson had a loss to Malkoun, but before that, it's Arkaga, Kalen Hill, and then some other guys that aren't even, the decent regional scene competition. While Petrosyan was over there in AMC and ACB, fighting studs that really, really know how to wrestle. So AJ Dobson's going to be one of the worst wrestlers he's ever faced because Kolev can wrestle. Rodriguez is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu stud who's a world champion at the purple belt level. Caio is a great wrestler / grappler, but Dobson will be the guy with the least grappling chops that Armen Petrosyan has seen thus far. So I got to believe if Petrosyan gets out of the first round, that's when we're going to really see him have success. But Dobson very live to win in the first. I think this fight probably finishes inside the distance. We don't have a lot of stats on these guys, so I won't give you the prop template on this one. But I'm going to pick Armen Petrosyan to win this one by second or third round knockout. But I think that I'm going to put a quarter unit on AJ Dobson to win by first round knockout because I really feel that's his best win condition, and it's Petrosyan's most likely loss condition against an opponent like Dobson. And we can turn that into about 2 units with just a quarter unit bet at plus 850. So that's going to be the play for me. But the pick is Armen Petrosyan by knockout in the second round. All right, next fight is the Syllable Bowl. Say it along with me, folks. Abubakar Nurmagomedov at a minus 163 favorite is fading Gadzhi Omargadzhiev. It's actually Gadzhi Omargadzhiev plus 143. The fight doesn't go to decision, is plus money at plus 150 here. And I think the fight doesn't go to decision is actually kind of a decent look here, as I think that both of these guys can be finished. Now, Omargadzhiev only has one career loss, and it was to Borralho up at 185. But this fight's going to be taking place at 170, and it's going to be Omargadzhiev making his debut at this weight class. And I just want to show you something here. How long it's been since I should have just clicked on Petrosyan there. How long it's been since this guy has fought at this weight. So Omargadzhiev is 13-1 as a pro, and he's got an amateur career as well. And I believe we have to go to the Nurmagomedov fight. That's a middleweight fight. That's a middleweight fight. That's a welterweight fight. 2014, September 26th, 2014 is the last time Omargadzhiev fought at welterweight, and he was an amateur, not even a pro. Everything since then has been at middleweight. So if you're thinking about taking a shot on the underdog here in Omargadzhiev, and as you can see, why not take a shot? I mean, he's a very handsome man, beautiful haircut, great beard, and a great name, Gadzhi Omargadzhiev. It just rolls off the tongue. But he hasn't been at this weight yet, in 8 years. So, you might want to wait to see what this guy looks like on the scale before you go betting him. But he is going to be, and he's listed at 6'1". That might be total bullshit. He could be 5'11" or 5'10". But Gadzhi's younger. Abu's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage, and Gadzhi switches stances against the orthodox fighter here in Abu. Abu, 6 more pro fights. They both have 2 UFC fights, a similar amount of pro cage time, UFC cage time, but twice as much pro cage time for Abu here. Gadzhi, the better finisher with an 85% finish rate. For Abu, it's 62%. And Abu been finishing all 3 losses. Gadzhi has never been finished. But I think that Abu is going to be the better minute winner at striking range here. He does have pretty clean striking. His punches come straight down the pipe, and he looks a lot more technical than Gadzhi. Gadzhi's kind of a wild man. He'll throw kicks with both legs, a big looping overhand right that looks a lot like Makhmud Muradov's, but is a lot less powerful and a lot less precise. But Gadzhi does swing for the fences on the feet, And when he's in the grappling exchanges, he'll go for leg locks and shit. Like he doesn't really rest down there, and he is very aggressive on the ground and trying to finish fights. But Abu's obviously no slouch on the ground. He did get caught in a triangle choke from David Zawada where he lost that fight. But he's a Nurmagomedov. The dude knows how to wrestle. He knows how to grapple. He knows how to wear on people. And we can see here that Abu's done a great job of controlling his opponents and not getting controlled. And we can see that Gadzhi's 2 for 3 on his takedowns, but he's getting out controlled at almost a 3-to-1 ratio here. So that's a little bit troublesome against the guy in Nurmagomedov who's done a very good job of getting control time against his opponents while not yielding it. And then if we look at the strength of schedule here, we don't really have much, but at least Gadzhi has fought a winning fighter in Caio, while Abu's fought 2 guys who are 1-4 at the UFC level. He got the win against Gooden, and he got the loss against Zubaira. And then before that, he was fighting PFL, World Series of Fighting, and fighting better competition in those organizations than what Gadzhi was fighting pre-UFC. So I like Abu's striking better. I like his strength of schedule better. It's going to be Gadzhi who has... it's going to be Abu who has that reach advantage and the overall experience advantage. The grappling is going to be close, but it looks like Abu's got the better grappling numbers. I think maybe if you like Gadzhi here, try the finish only prop because Abu's been finishing all of his losses. But I actually think that Nurmagomedov is probably the better minute winner here. But I want to see how Gadzhi looks on the scales. I want to see how these guys look at face-offs, see who the bigger guy is. But I don't really have a strong lean here. But when you look at these numbers, it leads me to believe that Abu is the more likely guy to win minutes and come out the other end with a decision victory here. But Gadzhi's, like I said, he's a wild man. He could grab up a leg lock. He could go for a front choke. He could land one of those big, wild overhand rights and clip Nurmagomedov. So it's one that I'm staying away from. But the pick is going to be Abubakar Nurmagomedov by decision. Let's see what you guys are talking about here. Juicy J saying getting choked out by Zawada is wild. And it really is, man. Sloppy Seconds asking, did the Mustafayev fight get canceled due to his haircut? Actually, no. The reason it didn't get canceled because of the haircut is because he'd gotten away with that haircut 6 different times already in the UFC, and the UFC was very concerned that they were kind of moving the goalposts on Magomed. They don't want anyone coming in with a haircut like that now that they're corporate owned and they're stockholders. But I think Magomed is kind of grandfathered in at this point. So I don't think it was the haircut that caused that fight to be canceled, man. Juicy J saying Abubakar is trash and his wins are really weak. Yeah, but guess what? So are Omargadzhiev's. Find me one decent win anywhere on Omargadzhiev's record that's any better than Jared Gooden or Bojan Velikovic or Jonathan Weston. You're not going to really find anything. So it's one of the bigger. It's definitely one of the bigger stay away fights on this card. That's for sure, man. But anyway, let's see here. We got Jared saying this week is testing our fake Russian sniffers. Yes, sir, man. I know. Okay, yeah. So anyway, that's the pick for there. It's going to be Abu by decision. The next fight would have been Mustafayev versus Nishikawa. God, I wanted to see Magomed every goddamn time. Magomed's fights get called off, and sometimes it's Magomed, sometimes it's his opponent. Really exciting fighter to watch. It's just a crying shame we don't get to see him again, and who knows how long it'll be till we see him the next time. But Magomed Mustafayev, looking forward to seeing you in the cage again, even if I have to look at that haircut, because he's so fun to watch. But the next fight is going to be Zubaira Tukhugov at -158, squaring off against Lucas Almeida, +138. The fight doesn't go to decision, coming in at +120 for this one. Lucas has got a nice little measurables advantage here. 3 inches taller, 3-inch reach advantage. Now, Zuba's got the experience advantage with 11 more pro fights, over 150 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 4 more years as a pro fighter. He's also got the UFC experience advantage with 6 more UFC fights and about 70 to 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. Lucas is the better finisher. He's got a 100% finish rate as a pro in 14 pro wins, while for Zuba, it's only 40%. 8 wins inside the distance for Zuba, 7 by knockout, 1 by sub, while for Lucas, it's 9 by knockout and 5 by submission. Zuba's been finished twice in 5 pro losses, but he has not been finished since the year 2012. And Lucas Almeida has never been finished in his pro career. When it comes to the striking, I guess it's going to be kind of even in my opinion, because I think that Zuba's got a very difficult style to deal with. He kind of stays low. He stays crouched. He throws a big overhand, and he kind of keeps his hands low. So the angles with which the punches are coming at you are kind of odd. And Zuby's got slick power, man. He's got 3 knockdowns in 8 fights. And if you go back and you watch the tape on this guy, he's usually got his opponents on skates at some point in every fight, usually in the first round, just because of how hard he does throw. Now, Lucas has got a ton of power, and he's huge for the weight class. Great Muay Thai striker, good straight punches, throws in combination, and when he hits, it hurts. Both of these guys are landing knockdowns on over 1% of the significant strikes that they're landing. But you look at that knockdowns per 15 number, Lucas has got some serious power. Lucas has been knocked down once by Mike Trizano, and he's absorbing 0.58 knockdowns per 15 minutes. But, he lands 1 more strike than he absorbs, and he's throwing 3 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents throw. So good volume, good accuracy, good power. I think it's going to be very close on the feet. But the one thing that Zuba does really well is mix in those takedowns. 16 takedowns on 37 attempts, so a really nice 43% accuracy there. 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes, out-controlling his opponents 16% to less than 1%. So it's about a 24 to 1 ratio of control time for to control time against, and he's showing 100% takedown defense. So the other thing we have to be aware of is that Almeida has 48% striking defense, and for Zuba, it's 65. So Almeida's probably going to be the more hittable one, but he will be the taller, rangier guy, and he probably is the more powerful striker here, even though both of these guys have shown the ability to hurt their opponents at the UFC level. The strength of schedule, that's all Zuba. Zuba with a 1.43 ratio overall in 7 total fights, and he's beating guys with winning records in over 6 total fights, and he's losing the guys with 1.5 win-to-loss ratios in 10 total fights. Lucas's number is just not as good anywhere, but the wins are actually kind of close. But there's only 1 win for Almeida, while there are 6 for Zuba. So we can count on that Zuba strength to schedule a little bit more because we just got a more robust sample size. So when it comes to Tukhugov, he's more experienced. He's going to be the much more likely guy to win minutes in the grappling, and he's got the superior strength to schedule. The finish stats is Almeida, the size is Almeida, and the power probably is Almeida. He's very durable as well. So I think the Lucas Almeida finish only prop at plus money is a good way to look at this. I also think the fight could potentially end in round 1 because that's when Zuba has shown to be the most dangerous with his striking. And I've seen Almeida get sparked a couple of different times in the first round. He is hittable early in fights. So fight ends in round 1 could be a sneaky play here. Under 1.5, in my opinion, at a fat plus number could be a sneaky play. Let's see what we got in the prop template here for the under 1.5. We don't even have it listed. So the under 1.5 for Almeida Tukhugov right now, sitting about plus 240 and minus 350 for the over. All these numbers are against us, but still, I do think that there's a chance that it ends, but we can maybe get a better price than 240 is what the prop template's telling us. Very interesting fight here. I'm going to pick Tukhugov to win this fight by decision, and I think that it's because he's just as likely to win minutes and moments on the feet, but I know that Zuba is more likely to win minutes on the ground. Add to the fact that this fight is in Abu Dhabi, That's where Zuba trains. That's where he's like, that's like his second home. And Lucas is going to be making a long flight there. So I like Zuba here. I like him to win this one by decision, but I also think he's live to get a first-round finish as well. Yeah, Zuba by decision. Next one is going to be Nikita Krylov at -171, going up against Volkan, no time Oezdemir, +146. The fight doesn't go to decision right now, and Bet Online sitting at -180. Bring up the stats here. So let me get a sip of my beverage. Dude, you guys, it's Tuesday night. We've been working hard all week to give you really good content on UFC 280. It's the best card of the year. Do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. That's great for the algorithm. And if you don't have a beverage, man, go grab one. I'll wait. It's a lovely evening. We've been working hard. We deserve it. Oh, yeah. There we go. Alarmist. Les Jus, one of the better beers here that's locally produced over on Peterson Avenue in Chicago in Sauganash. Great independently owned small microbrew that produces some great IPAs. But Nikita Krylov is a favorite here. He's 1 inch taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got 13 more pro fights in comparison to Oezdemir. He's got a few less minutes in the cage. He's got 5 more UFC level fights, but still less minutes in the cage in comparison to Oezdemir. And that's because average fight time at the UFC level for Krylov, 6.63 minutes. For Oezdemir, it's 10.27. And the average fight time for Oezdemir as a pro, 7.29, and it's only 4.24 for Krylov. So both of these guys are finishers of the highest order. Krylov, the better finisher, though, with a 97% finish rate in his wins, while it's a 73% finish rate in Oezdemir's wins. Nikita has finished 8 of his 9 UFC wins, 4 by submission, 4 by knockout, so he's an equal opportunity finisher, while Volkan's really only finishing fights by knockout at the UFC level. Neither one of these guys has shown much durability as they're both getting finished in more than half of their UFC losses. It's 3 of 5 losses finished inside the distance for Oezdemir, and it's 5 of 7 for Krylov. When it comes to the striking, so the numbers are just much better for Krylov here. He throws way more volume than his opponents. He's landing almost twice as many significant strikes per minute as his opponents. Really nice 57% striking accuracy, and he's got 5 knockdowns in 16 fights, and he's averaging 0.71 knockdowns per 15 minutes. So he's about 10% more accurate. He's about twice as powerful, and he lands the same amount of strikes almost as Volkan, but he's absorbing about 1.5 less per minute than Volkan is, but he's not very good defensively with a 43.75% striking defense. Both of these guys are absorbing a knockdown on about 0.4% of the strikes that they're absorbing, but Volkan is absorbing about twice as many knockdowns per 15 minutes as Krylov is. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to have to give the edge to Krylov here, and it's because he spends a lot more time in these grappling positions. He's getting his takedowns at a 35% clip, averaging 1.4 per 15 minutes and averaging about 1.25 submission attempts per 15 minutes. He's very active getting the fight to the ground, and he's spending almost 70% of his 106 minutes in control time positions for or against. Now, Oezdemir spending about 80% of his fights at striking distance, so he's clearly more comfortable at striking distance, winning minutes there. And he's got 86.67% takedown defense, and he's only been controlled about 8.5% of his UFC career. So that's probably about 9 to 9.5 minutes only on 6 takedowns and on 45 takedown attempts. So Nikita might have to keep this fight standing, but he brings so much chaos that he might be able to get a takedown just because he throws so much volume and he leaves his chin out there. So I'm not really sold on either side or the other here, but the side that I am sold on is violence, and we can go over that on the prop template shortly. But I got Oezdemir having the better strength to schedule here, a much better ratio, comparable in level of competition, but in the wins, the ratio is just much better. and the comparable level of competition in terms of total fights. And yeah, he's got the better losses as well, especially in terms of ratio. So when it comes to whether this fight's going to finish or not inside the distance, I think it's important to look at these numbers. I mean, we've got 17 of 24 pro fights for Oezdemir are finished inside the distance. It's 34 of 37 for Krylov. That's 92%. So 83% of these guys' fights are finished inside the distance, but at minus 180, only 65% implied probability. So that's wild to me that we could get this at better than 65% when these guys are finishing as pros at an 83% clip. And when one of the fighters that's involved in the fight, Nikita Krylov, his fights are finishing inside the distance in a 37-fight sample size 92% of the time. That's what we call a killer be killed fighter. That's the archetype of fighter that we want to bet on when we're looking for violence. And I think it's set up perfectly because these lines aren't even overpriced. That under 2.5 at minus 145, the fight doesn't go at minus 180. Those are both excellent prices and ones that I think you should jump at even at the current price that it's at. Love the fight doesn't go to decision here. It is a tracked bet. I got 2.5 units at minus 126 on this fight doesn't go. I'm going to pick Nikita Krylov because I think he just does more in terms of winning this fight. I think Volkan's going to be waiting to land a big shot. But even if he does, Krylov is sometimes at his most dangerous when you hurt him. So I think that this is going to be a war. I think somebody's getting finished. I'm going to pick Nikita Krylov to win the fight. But I'm not betting either one of these money lines. I am just sticking on the side of violence here. The next fight that we're going to talk about is an absolutely great striker versus grappler matchup. And it is Makhmud Muradov against Caio. Borralho has got the measurables advantage here as he's 3 years younger. And he's got the same height and the same reach as Muradov. I mean, Borralho is listed at 5'10". He's easily 6'2". Fighting nerds for Borralho, Monster Gym for Makhmud Muradov. Uzbekistan, stand up. Your boy is going in there and making his return to the UFC cage. We haven't seen him since the loss to Mearshart. And Borralho is coming off of his win against, was it Armen Petrosyan? Armen Petrosyan, yes. So Muradov far more experienced here. He's got 18 more pro fights and 150 more minutes in the pro cage and almost 3 more years as a pro fighter. But the UFC experience is actually comparable for these two guys. When it comes to finish rates, Muradov with an 80% finish rate and a 67% finish rate at the UFC level. Borralho with a 58% finish rate as a pro and only a 25% finish rate in his UFC fights. Muradov has been finished in 5 of 7 pro losses. He's been subbed 4 times and he's been knocked out once. And Caio Borralho has never been finished. When it comes to the striking, it's Muradov. When it comes to the grappling, it's Borralho. Both of these guys very good at what they do. Muradov has got fantastic footwork. This is in the big cage, so he's going to be able to move laterally. He really doesn't plant his feet except for when he's throwing. And then other than that, he moves laterally side to side in a circle and makes it very difficult to track this man down, to try to back him up against the fence and get your arms locked behind his butt to get that double leg takedown that you're looking for. It's going to be difficult for Caio because Makhmud has done an excellent job of keeping his fight standing. But on the feet, Makhmud landing 5.4, absorbing 3.17, showing 62% striking defense, 0.31 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he throws about 4.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. Borralho getting out-volumed by his opponents, but he's landing about 0.9 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. Really nice number here. Really nice number here at 62% striking accuracy. But the problem is that, he's in control time positions about 2/3 of his fights. So, it's hard to know whether that's, distant striking accuracy. But Caio's gotten 8 of his 10 takedowns, and he's got 50% control time for and 17% control time against. So It's who gets their way. Is Muradov's footwork and movement and staying on his bike going to be enough to keep this fight at distance striking range long enough for him to be able to win this fight? Or is Caio going to have to pressure him, cut off the cage, back him up, and get him to the mat multiple times and stay on top of him? Because Muradov's been very good at keeping his fights at striking range here. 93% of his UFC cage time of almost 50 minutes is taking place at striking range. If that trend continues, this fight's all Muradov. But if the 49.8% control time for and 80% takedown accuracy and 2.63 takedowns per 15 minutes, if that trend continues for Caio, then he's going to be the one to win it. But the problem is here with Caio, you're laying minus 200. With Muradov, you're getting plus 170. So you're making the assumption that Caio is going to do what he needs to do, and he is a smart fighter. So I think it's safe to make that assumption that he's going to sell out to get this fight to the ground, because if it stays on the feet, he's not likely to win it. He's a good striker. He's an artificial southpaw. He's actually a righty in life, but like he taught himself how to strike southpaw so that he could emulate Conor McGregor. So his lead hand is his power hand. And he's taught himself how to use that left hand as a good straight left as a weapon. But I really believe that if this fight stays on the feet, Makhmud is just way too technically sound. He manages distance very well, and he's got a number of different weapons that are very dangerous. Like I said, striker versus grappler. Makhmud has already fought the better brand of competition here. He's got a 3 ratio to Caio, but it's a 1 ratio for Makhmud. But look at the total fights, much more experienced competition. 10 total fights in Muradov's wins. And then you look at the names, Wildemar Santos, Aaron Jeffrey, Jesse Murray, Gadzhi, and Armen Petrosyan, while Muradov, Mearshart, Sanchez, Hot Sauce, DiChirico, Wendell Oliveira. So I think Makhmud's been fighting the much better brand of competition here. He's already fought several grapplers. Man, this is a hard one to call because I'm a big fan of both of these guys. I love Muradov's striking. I love Borralho's fight IQ and willingness to take the fight to where his opponent is going to be the least comfortable and to stick to that game plan and to be able to know that you can count on him to do it. So once Gerald did get Makhmud down, it was pretty much over shortly thereafter. So I guess the pick I'm going to have to make is Caio Borralho, but I can tell you this. I won't be betting him because I can't just assume that a guy like Muradov, who's had 50 minutes in the UFC cage and has fought some really good grapplers already, guys that are really good with their submission threats like Sanchez and Mearshart. Sanchez, a really good wrestler. Trevor Smith, a really good wrestler. DiChirico, a well-rounded mixed martial artist. I just think it's not that big of a step up in competition for Borralho. And I also think that Mearshart kind of Homer Simpsoned Muradov in that last fight. I think a lot of people would have just been disposed of in the first round there. But yeah, I'm picking Caio Borralho to win the fight. I'll pick him to win it by decision. But I'm going to say that if you made me pick a money line side, I'd be betting the Muradov side. I almost got him at plus 230 earlier in the week, but I didn't pull the trigger. And by the time I taped the fight, that line had moved quite a bit. So, yeah, the pick is going to be Borralho, but the bet, I believe, the more value is on that Muradov money line here. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We got Caio is a smart fighter. Yes. Antonio saying I could see a 30-27. Yup, absolutely, man. And we got our guy SD Carvalho saying Charles is probably going to do something very good. I don't speak Portuguese, but I can read Portuguese and know that vai means go, ser means be, campeão probably means champion, ves is time, uma probably means una. One more time. Charles will be champion one more time is, I believe, how you say that in Portuguese. I'm just using my Spanish, really. I'm just hoping that those words mean the same thing in Portuguese. We got Mike Morris saying Weezy. We got Clay saying got a beverage, gonna have a toke break. You do that, man. But hang on just a second. And Travis saying, yeah, you're the man. I'll grab a drink. I like that. We got 102 of you guys rocking live with us here on Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. The best card of the year, UFC 280. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe if you haven't already. And let's continue here. The next fight is going to be Belal. Remember the name Muhammad, plus 110, going up against Sean Brady at minus 130. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 190. Chicago, Illinois, stand up. Palestine, stand up. Belal Muhammad, remember the name, is back. After that main event win over Vicente Luque by decision, he is getting one of the hottest undefeated mixed martial artists that we've got as a prospect right now in this 170-pound division in the UFC. Sean Brady is an incredible talent, a plus grappler. He's got a back like a fucking slab of marble. Guy looks like a Greek god with even better tattoos than what the Greeks would have ever had. This kid is really something special. And then with Belal, you get a guy that's super high IQ, a really smart fighter, finds ways to win minutes, and does that by making his opponents uncomfortable, putting the fights where his opponents don't want it. So you've got a really good, well-rounded, smart fighter here in Belal Muhammad going up against a guy in Brady who has really been a master of using his grappling to win minutes and win fights. So it's going to be Brady, who's 5 years younger here. These guys are about the same height, same reach, same stance, both coming out of really good camps here in the United States. Belal with 10 more fights, though, and twice as much time in the pro cage, almost 170 more minutes in the pro cage, and about 2 more years as a pro fighter. He's also got 11 more fights at the UFC level and over 150 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Sean who's the much better finisher here at 47% in his career, while it's only 24% for Belal. And Belal at the UFC level has a 16% finish rate. That's 2 wins inside the distance, 1 by submission, 1 by knockout, while Sean Brady has 2 wins inside the distance, both of them by submission. Belal's been knocked out once in his career. It was by Vicente Luque, and Sean Brady's never tasted defeat. So I'm going to give Belal Muhammad the striking advantage. He's the better minute winner at range in the striking exchanges, and I'm going to give Sean Brady the grappling advantage here because he's an absolutely suffocating grappler, wins a ton of minutes, very high percentage on his takedowns. Once he gets you down, you really don't get back up. He works to your back, and he works for submissions. If he doesn't get the submissions, he easily wins the round. So we see Belal here with about a 0.8 significant strike differential, throws about 1.2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents. Brady lands about 0.7 more, but he's throwing about 1.3 significant strike attempts less per minute. He's got a little bit of power as he's landed 1 knockdown in 5 fights, and his striking defense at 62% is a shade better than Belal's at 59%. Belal has been knocked down 6 times, though, at the UFC level in 16 fights, but he's only been knocked out once. So he can absorb a knockdown and work his way back into the fight. When it comes to wrestling, both of these guys are good. Belal Muhammad is averaging 2.29 takedowns per 15 minutes, but Brady about almost 1 more per 15 minutes. We see Brady's getting his takedowns at a 25% higher clip than Muhammad does, and that he gets about 15% control time more than Muhammad does, but they both are allowing less than 5% control time against. Both of these guys have been excellent at not getting taken down. 87% takedown defense for Brady, almost 92% takedown defense for Belal. But what's important to look at with Belal here, and I've been looking to bet Belal all week, but this is what bothers me, everybody. This is the takedown attempts that Belal has faced in his career. 0 0 0 0 6 1 3 0 0 2 0 1 1 21 1 0. So you're talking about a guy who has 16 UFC fights, and in only 3 of those fights has he seen 3 or more takedown attempts. So he stopped 19 of 21 against Maia here, right? Or actually, Maia was 1 of 21, right? I mean, if you throw that out, he's only got 2 of 15. So he's still stopping those takedowns at almost in a 90% clip, but he's just not seeing that many takedown attempts. And he's not really seeing them from, I mean, you look at these names, they're not wrestlers. Joban, Montano, Luque, Brown, Means, Rencounter, Neal, Millender, Sato, Lyman Good, Diego Lima, Leon Edwards, Damian Maia, Stephen Thompson, and Luque. So Luque never tries takedowns. Thompson never does. Maia does. Edwards will try them. But yeah, Lima, Good, Sato, Millender, none of these guys are shooting takedowns. So I think on paper, you can look at that takedown defense and draw a lot of comfort from it if you're on that Belal Muhammad side. But when you dig a little bit deeper, what happens if Sean attempts 10 takedowns here? If he does that, is Belal stopping 9 of them? Because he kind of would have to, right, in order to win this fight. He can't get taken down more than one round, I don't think, and win this fight. Because once Brady gets you down, you're fucking staying there. He's a refrigerator of a human being. So this is going to be interesting. How is Belal going to handle this? How is he going to handle, because we know he's got great lateral movement. We know he never really plants his feet and allows his opponents to shoot against him. But the way that Brady chains his takedowns together, I could see him getting takedowns against Belal here, but he's going to have to really sell out to do it, and he's going to have to expend a lot of energy in order to get it done. But I get the feeling all he needs is 2. That's what I'm worried about here. And he's getting his takedowns at a 60% clip, and he's getting them against decent wrestlers. Court McGee's a good wrestler. Ismail Nardiev is a good wrestler. Aguilera has a wrestling background. Matthews, okay, but Chiesa's a great grappler. And I mean, look, he's just getting 5 takedowns, 1 takedown, 2 takedowns, 4 takedowns, I mean, he's just getting takedowns like hotcakes here. The only guy that he took down and wasn't able to hold down was Court McGee, but Court McGee is one of the best grapplers in the entire division. Everybody else that he's taking down, 4 takedowns, 478 seconds of control time. 2 takedowns, 128 seconds of control time. Here, only 1 takedown, and he's still got 488 seconds of control time. And here, 5 takedowns, 465 seconds of control time. And then you look up here at Belal, and only in the Damian Maia fight was he controlled for more than 100 seconds. And that was on 21 takedown attempts. Other fighters have had an extremely difficult time accumulating control time against Belal Muhammad. So this is just great matchmaking. 2 very, very high-level fighters. I think Belal wins the minutes at distance. I think he's going to make it very difficult for Sean to take him down. The pick is Belal Muhammad by decision here. But I really thought after I watched the tape that I was going to be betting at least 1 unit on Belal by decision. Now I don't even know if I can pull the trigger, because I just feel as if Belal gets sloppy with 1 kick and Brady catches it and dumps him on his ass. That could be a round for Brady. And then Brady gets 1 good double leg takedown attempt and gets in on his hips, on Belal, and gets him to the ground. And he gets him there and he keeps him there. That's all he needs to win the fight. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think Muhammad will be better served over there in Abu Dhabi. I think he's fought there before. I think the Leon Edwards fight was there, but I'm not positive about it. But yeah, the pick is Belal by decision. but not as confident as I was earlier in the week on that result. This next fight is a beauty. Katlyn Chookagian, plus 167. Manon Fiorot, minus 192. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 250, which I think is a good bet because Manon is a hell of a finisher. Chookagian is a year older than Manon. She's 2 inches taller and has a 3-inch reach advantage. So we definitely like that for Chookagian. We also like the experience for Chookagian. She's got 12 more pro fights, about 170 more minutes in the pro cage, 4 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. She's also got 11 more fights at the UFC level and over 160 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Manon who's the much better finisher at 67% overall, while Chookagian 17%. And she's never finished a UFC win in 11 wins, while Manon Fiorot has finished 2 of her 4 wins inside the distance. Katlyn's been knocked out twice in her career in 4 losses, and Manon has never been finished. Who's the better striker? I'm going to give the advantage to Manon here because I think both of these ladies are good at doing the exact same thing. It's just that Manon does it with a little more flair. She does it with a little more power. And if you look at the numbers thus far at the UFC level, obviously it's Katlyn who's fighting the better competition, right? But the numbers that Manon are putting up, she's landing over 4 more significant strikes per minute than she's absorbing. That's unbelievable. That's almost like a 2.5 to 1 ratio of significant strikes landed to significant strikes absorbed. She's also throwing almost 6 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents. She's busier. She's way more accurate. She lands more. She throws more, and she absorbs almost half of what Katlyn does. So she's just a little bit better everywhere. Better with power, better with accuracy, better with the significant strike differential, better throwing volume, even better defensively. 70.47% striking defense is probably one of the only numbers that's better than Chookagian's at 63%. So everything that Manon does, well on the feet, Katlyn does well as well. But I think it's just Manon who does it with more flair, and I think that she's got a lot more control over her kicks in order to be able to maintain distance. And I think that's going to be very important here because she is going to be the shorter, less rangy woman here. She's going to have to use those kicks if she wants to be able to maintain distance in the fashion that she's been doing it thus far against the opponents that she's already seen. And the other thing that I like about Manon is I think she's much more likely to get takedowns here. Katlyn, only 4 of 26 on her takedown attempts for 15.4%, while Manon's getting them at 50%. And we've also seen Manon dive into the guard of some very dangerous grapplers. She's very comfortable on the ground. Chookagian's getting out-controlled at a 2-to-1 ratio. Manon out-controls her opponents at a 6-to-1 ratio. Manon showing 83% takedown defense, Katlyn showing 54. And then when we look at the strength of schedule, that's Katlyn Chookagian. Better ratio here for Manon, but much less experienced competition. And in the wins, the similar ratio, but Katlyn's beating much more experienced competition. I think that this is Manon Fiorot here. I like her a lot in this spot. I have a big bet on this fight. I went with the finish-only prop for Manon Fiorot. Minus 205 on FanDuel Sportsbook is just a mistake line. Katlyn Chookagian has 11 UFC wins, and she's finished 0. 0 of them. So Chookagian can't finish anyone. Manon Fiorot has never been finished, but Manon has finished 6 of her 9 pro wins. Katlyn Chookagian has finished 3 of her 18 pro wins, and none of those finishes came at the UFC level. They were all on the regional scene against lower level competition. So I'm going to pick Manon Fiorot to win this one. I think she's got a chance to win this one inside the distance as well. If she gets mean, if she takes down Katlyn and tries to land some ground and pound and then maybe hurts her as she's trying to get back up. But I'm going to pick Fiorot to win this. And I'm going to say that fight doesn't go to decision at plus 250 is actually kind of juicy for somebody that's been finished as much as Chookagian. And for somebody with the power and the meanness of Fiorot, And I love that finish only prop at minus 205. That way, if the fight goes to decision, the bet is voided. But it is a max bet for me. 5 full units, max bet, minus 205. I'm basically saying there's no chance that Chookagian finishes Firo without being able to bring a shovel into the cage. And they don't let you do that anymore. And they don't let you put the barbed wire on the gloves anymore. They used to call that the stinga. But they don't let you do that anymore either. So if you can't do that, if you can't have a raven fly in and try to pluck out an eye, you know, if you can't put her feet in cement boots and then just make her stand there while you pick her apart, I don't see how she finishes this fight. So Manon Firo finish only prop max bet this week is one of my 2 max bets that I have on this card. There might still be 2 more to come. Yeah, Firo to win. The next fight, another beauty. Grappler versus grappler matchup where both of these guys are also very good strikers. Beneil Dariush at plus 165, squaring off against Mateusz Gamrot at minus 190. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 130 here. Let me get a sip of my beverage before we keep going. It's lovely. Okay, so Gamer is 2 years younger, but it's Dariush who's got a 2-inch reach advantage. This is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. Dariush out of Kings MMA, American top team for Gamrot. It's Dariush who's got 3 more pro fights, but it's Gamer who's got about 40 more minutes in the pro cage. 2 more years as a pro for Dariush, but a lot more UFC level experience for Dariush. 15 more UFC level fights, about 130 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to finish stats, we've got a 57% finish rate overall for Gamrot, and we've got a 62% finish rate overall for Dariush. And at the UFC level, Dariush's got a 53% finish rate, and Gamrot's got a 75% finish rate. And Dariush has been finished in all of his losses, and Gamrot's only got 1, and it was by decision. And it was a very close fight. Who's the better striker here? I like the striking metrics for Dariush better, and he's been fighting at the UFC level for 15 more fights. So I'm going to give Dariush the striking advantage here. His significant strike differential is about 1.22. He's got a 59% striking defense. He's got better power numbers and more knockdowns per 15 than Gamrot does, and he's comparable with the accuracy, landing just about as much, throwing a little bit more, and his opponents throw less than Dariush while Gamrot gets out-volumed by his opponents. Really nice striking defense here for Gamrot, but Gamrot's been knocked down twice in 5 fights, while Dariush has been knocked down 4 times in 20 fights. So it's Gamrot who's actually absorbing a little bit more knockdowns for 15 minutes. When it comes to the grappling, both of these guys have amazing grappling numbers, right? Both of them getting their takedowns right around 35%. Gamrot, 4.83 takedowns per 15 minutes. Dariush, less than half that with 2.11, but we can see that Dariush is doing a lot more with his takedowns as he's controlling his opponents 43% of his UFC career, while for Gamrot, that's 20%. So Gamrot's getting more than twice as many takedowns, but he's getting half the control time. So what that tells me is when Dariush takes you down, you stay there. When Gamrot takes you down, you probably get back up pretty quickly. So I think that Dariush could even be the better control time grappler, the guy that's more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges. They both have excellent takedown defense. 81.5% on 27 attempts for Dariush, and he's allowing less than 10% control time. And Gamrot, with a 90% takedown defense, is averaging even less control time at 3.07. When it comes to who has fought the better brand of competition, that's Dariush, as he's got the better ratio and the more experienced competition, and his wins are against better ratio guys with a similar amount of competition. So when we go through the numbers here, and as I looked through the tape, I mean, I like Dariush here. Now, something else that I really like are the violence spots for this one. So let's look at the prop template here for the Dariush-Gamrot fight. And let's zoom in on this just a little bit, right? Plus 130 for the fight doesn't go, and plus 155 for the under 2.5. These are both what we call trifecta bets. The divisional finish rate is about 50.5 6%, but we're only paying 43, so we're getting a 7% edge. These guys are finishing at a 16.5% better rate than the implied probability of the line. So that tells me that 60% of their fights aren't going to decision, but we're only paying 43% on the implied probability. So that's a 16.5% break, and that these two guys are finishing inside the distance at a 9.5% rate higher than what 155 pounders do in 3-round fights. So we love both of these spots. But even these under 2.5 at 155 is even a better value than the fight doesn't go at plus 130. Because the reality is that whether it's fight doesn't go or under 2.5, these guys are finishing at 60% for both of them. So we get an even bigger edge here. These are big trifecta bets with over 40% when we add these three numbers up of an advantage over the house. So we gotta love that. That's gonna be one of my track bets this week. It's probably 1 unit on the under 2.5 at plus 155, because these guys are finishing at a 60% clip, and both of them are doing that. And we've seen Dariush be finished in all 4 of his losses. So I love violence in this spot, but I do think that Dariush is going to be the one to get the job done here. Can't wait for this fight, but I just think Beneil has fought the better brand of competition. He's more experienced, and I think he's more dangerous on the feet, and I think it's going to be awfully close in the grappling exchanges. So I just don't understand really why Gamrot is such a big favorite here. I really believe that this plus 165 right here on Bet Online for Beneil Dariush is a really good number, and that you're getting a great fighter in a very close fight that could go either way, and you're getting that fat plus money number. So I definitely like that there. I'm going to be going with Beneil Dariush, and I think he might even get it done inside the distance. But I also love that under 2.5 as a bet that I think people are just expecting this to be a 3-round grappling match where they're just holding each other down. But the reality is these guys throw with a ton of power on the feet, and they're both looking to finish. So definitely love violence in this spot, and I'm going to lean Beneil Dariush at plus 165 on the money line. All right, let's see something here real quick. Okay, sweet. All right, you guys, next fight is going to be Peter No Mercy Yan at minus 265 against Sugar Sean O'Malley at plus 225. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting up at plus 140 here. You got a nice little measurables advantage here for O'Malley, as he's 2 years younger, 4 inches taller, and has a 5-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys switch stances. It's for Peter Yan, it's not Arch Angle Michael Club. It's Tiger, which is now, I know it's not Tiger Muay Thai anymore, but I don't know how to spell Bang Tao. And Sean O'Malley out of the MMA lab. So Yan a little more experienced, 2 more pro fights, but we can tell that he's had about 150 more minutes in the pro cage in comparison to O'Malley, even though they've fought for about the same amount of time as pros. 10 fights apiece for these guys at the UFC level, but again, twice as much cage time for Yan, as his average fight time is 16.2 minutes, and it's 8.4 for O'Malley. 80% finish rate for O'Malley overall, 50% finish rate for Yan, 50% finish rate at the UFC level for Yan, 75% finish rate for O'Malley, and O'Malley's been finished in his only loss. If Siberia couldn't finish Peter Yan, I don't think anyone in the UFC will be able to. So when we look at the striking numbers, it's O'Malley who's going to have the more impressive metrics, but he's fought a much lower level of competition here. But Yan is landing about 1.5 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do, and he throws a little more volume. He's got really nice power numbers here, as does O'Malley, and both of these guys landing a lot of knockdowns per 15 minutes. But O'Malley's numbers are just better. He lands more than Yan. He absorbs less than Yan. He throws more than Yan, and his opponents throw about as much as Yan's opponents do. 65% striking defense for O'Malley is fantastic, and it's 61% for Yan. But the problem is that O'Malley's been fighting complete scrubs, and Peter Yan's been fighting the upper echelon of the division. So when it comes to the grappling, that's going to be Yan Sean O'Malley really doesn't wrestle, and we've never really seen his ground game tested at the UFC level at all. They've handled him with kid gloves. They've made sure that he never would face a takedown at the UFC level, and he really hasn't. He's been able to just be comfortable, stay at striking range as the UFC has been setting him up with garbage opponent after garbage opponent after garbage opponent, and making sure that all of those garbage opponents don't even know how to attempt a takedown, much less land one. Well, now he's going to be facing Peter Yan, who's getting his takedowns at a 61.5% clip, averaging 1.5 per 15 minutes, and out-controlling his opponents 15% to 10%, even though Peter's only attempted 26 takedowns and his opponents have attempted 70. So Peter Yan, a very efficient grappler, very difficult to take down and hold down. The only guy that was able to do it was Aljamain Sterling. Other than that, the takedowns that Peter Yan has absorbed, he's gotten right back up from. So, yeah, I mean, Yan is going to be the better striker here. He's going to be the better grappler. But while this is at striking range, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because Sean does throw a lot of volume. He does use his length well, and he moves laterally very well, and he throws a number of different attacks. You know, he's very unorthodox. And he uses that length, lots of kicks, lots of punches, lots of spinning stuff. He's very creative and very unique. Peter's going to have to figure out ways to close the distance on Sean. Maybe one of the ways that he does that is by mixing in the wrestling straight from the start. Maybe one of the ways he does that is to start pressuring right from the start. But there are going to be a number of different things that he can do. But it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with it, because he has faced off, though, against bigger guys in Aljo, in Sandhagen. And, you know, and he's beating these guys, you know. He beat Aljo that first time, except for that ridiculously stupid. And that's one thing you have to worry about with Peter Yan is the fight IQ. That knee to the grounded opponent in Aljo was unforgivable. I mean, he's still fucking champion if he doesn't pull that dumbass move. So, that's a problem. You know, we have to worry about Peter Yan doing something stupid here, but he'd have to do something real stupid, I think, in order to lose to Sean O'Malley, because I feel like he can pressure O'Malley, he can grapple with O'Malley, and even if he does just stand right in front of him, I think he's going to be the much more likely guy to land the shot that winds up ending the fight here. Even if Sean lands clean on Peter Yan, I don't think Peter Yan's going anywhere. So I think Peter does get this job done. I think he breaks Sean. It's going to be interesting to see how Peter adapts to going back to a 3-round fight, though. We haven't seen him in a 3-round fight for a long time. And it's not like Sean's the greatest starter in the world either, though. I think a lot of people are saying 3 rounds favors Sean, but Sean's kind of a slow starter, too. He lost that first round on all 3 scorecards to Pedro Munoz. And all Munoz was doing was switching stances with him so that he can land outside leg kicks to the calf. And you could tell just Munoz making that one little adjustment and switching stances with Sean really took Sean out of his game, and it made it so that he wasn't willing to throw nearly as much volume as we're accustomed to seeing him throw. So I think Peter's going to be targeting that calf on Sean, and I think Sean, if he's smart, will be targeting Peter's calf, because Peter's had some problems with calf kicks, especially in the Jose Aldo fight in the past. So this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going with Peter Yan here. I think he gets the job done. I think he breaks Sean inside the distance, and I think if he goes to the grappling early, he's going to just really torture this kid. So Peter Yan inside the distance, we'll call it like a 2nd-round knockout here. Next fight is going to be a title fight. It's Aljamain Sterling going up against TJ Dillashaw. Aljo minus 182, the favorite. TJ plus 157. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 150 here. So it's going to be Aljo who's the bigger dude here. He's younger by 3 years. He's got an inch of height, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage. Aljo also has 3 more professional fights and over 60 more minutes in the pro cage, while it's TJ who's had 1 more year as a pro. These guys' UFC level experience is almost identical. In terms of finish stats, 48% overall for Aljo, 65% for Dillashaw, and Dillashaw also the better finisher at the UFC level with a 62% finish rate in his 13 wins, while for Aljo, it's just under 40% in his 13 wins. TJ's been finished by knockout twice in his career, and Aljo has been finished once by knockout in his career. When it comes to the striking, I'm going to give the striking advantage to TJ Dillashaw. I think that he's just the guy that, because he's been champion and really doesn't wrestle a whole ton, he wins with his striking most of the time. He can mix in the wrestling to win minutes, but when we're seeing TJ win big fights, it's with the striking. TJ lands almost 2 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. He's throwing about 3.5 more attempts than his opponents do. Aljo lands 0.25 more than his opponents do, and he's throwing about 3.5 more significant strikes as well as his opponents. He's more accurate, but it's TJ who's got more power for sure on the feet. Aljamain Sterling, 16 UFC fights. He's never landed a knockdown. So we really know that Dillashaw is going to be the guy on the feet that's more likely to be landing the big shots. Even though he's at a reach disadvantage here, even though he's at a size disadvantage, he moves really well. He's kind of got like a Dominic Cruz type of footwork and movement pattern to him that makes it very difficult to hit him. We see that he's got a 64% striking defense, does Dillashaw. It's very difficult to find this guy and to hit him. 61% striking defense, though, for Aljo. But Aljo's been getting knocked down a little bit more per 15 minutes and absorbing significant strikes that knock him down about twice as often on the aggregate as TJ Dillashaw. When it comes to the grappling, Aljo is the better submission grappler. He's spending about 50% of his UFC career in control time positions for or against, and he's winning about 60% of those control time positions. But TJ is spending about 25% of his UFC career in control time positions for or against. But TJ is winning those control time positions at about a 96% clip. He's only been taken down 5 times on 37 attempts in 17 fights. And the control time that he's yielded is less than 1% of his UFC career. That means less than 2.16 minutes in a 216-minute career has somebody been taking down TJ and holding him down. So ask yourself this. We saw Aljamain Sterling fight Peter Yan twice. The first fight went 4 rounds. Aljo might have won the first, but Yan knocked him down at the end of the round. So maybe Yan steals that round on the judge's scorecard, even though Aljo kind of like out-volumed him there. But then Yan wins the second, he wins the third, and he's absolutely destroying Aljo in the fourth when he lands that illegal knee. How does Aljamain Sterling win minutes if he's not controlling TJ Dillashaw? Because he only gets his takedowns at a 21% clip. So the likelihood that he's going to be able to take down TJ, who's got 86.5% takedown defense, and take him down and control him when the guy's been controlled for less than 1% of his UFC career, facing the cream of the crop of the bantamweight division. Can we count on Aljamain Sterling to win minutes on the ground in this fight? I don't think so. And if you're not thinking that Aljo wins minutes on the ground in this fight, why the hell are you laying minus 182 on this guy? Are you really thinking that he wins 66 out of 100 of these fights if it's a kickboxing match at range? I think TJ probably wins out there. But the problem with TJ is we haven't seen him fight in forever. He's coming off of knee surgery, and that mobility and that movement and that footwork is such a big part of what he does. Is that going to slow him down at all? We don't know. It might make it easier for Aljo to corner him and get him down if he doesn't have that same mobility that we're used to seeing TJ have. When we look at the strength of schedule here, TJ with the worst ratio, but with the better total fights. And when we look at the wins, better ratio for Aljo, a little bit more total fights for Dillashaw. I'd give Aljo maybe just a little bit of an edge in the strength of schedule, actually, here. It's just that Dillashaw had better losses, much better in the ratio. But other than that, it's very close. This is a very close fight, but if TJ is the old TJ, the TJ that I'm used to seeing. I think this is a bad matchup for Aljamain Sterling. Let me show you guys this, right? So we've got Sterling Dillashaw here. These numbers here, that's control time allowed, CTA. CT is control time. Look at these numbers: 500 to nothing, 9 to nothing, 0 to 29, 7 to 4, 413 to 18, 49 to 2, 72 to 33, 337 to 9, 112 to nothing, 218 to nothing, 297 to nothing, 168 to 19, and then 62 to nothing, 175 to nothing, 61 to nothing, 742 to nothing, and then 0 to 3. This guy has never allowed more than 33 seconds of control time in any fight. And in that fight where he was controlled for 33 seconds, it wasn't a 900-second fight. It was a 1,500-second fight. In a 900-second fight, the most time that we've ever seen this guy controlled, maybe 29 seconds, but that was a 5-round fight. So actually it would be 19 seconds. Rafael Assunção controlled him for 19 seconds in a losing effort for Dillashaw. That's the most he's ever been controlled in a 3-round fight. So if you're betting Aljo at minus 182, you better be 70% sure that he's the better striker at range and that he's winning minutes at range here. Because if he doesn't, you can't count on him to win minutes in the grappling here. He couldn't even win minutes in the grappling in the first match against Jan. So very interesting fight. I think the value is on Dillashaw here, but I wouldn't go overboard because we haven't seen TJ fight since August of 2021. So it's been a year. It's been 15 months since we've seen him. And before that fight against Sandhagen, where he blew out his knee, the last fight before that was 2019. It had been 2.5 years since he had fought before that. So 2 fights in the last 5 years for TJ Dillashaw. So you see why you're getting the plus money there. Coming off of surgery. He's 3 years older. He's smaller, and he's been inactive, while Aljo is just now getting active again after going through that neck surgery that he had that kept him out for so long. So it's a fascinating fight, but I can't really get behind either side. But there's no way I'd lay the juice on Sterling. I think Dillashaw can get the job done. I think I'm going to pick TJ Dillashaw to win this one by decision, but with very little confidence. And like I say, you're assuming that knee is healed. You're assuming that TJ can fight like he did when he was 33, 32. And you're assuming that the kid's healthy, that he's motivated, and that he's ready to go. So it's a lot of assumptions to make, but you're getting plus money, so you're going to have to make some. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev, the most looked forward to of the fight of the year, in my opinion. One of the highest level fights that we've ever had the pleasure of seeing at the UFC level. The king of excitement in Charles Oliveira. He can submit you. He can knock you out. He pressures. He's explosive. He's got beautiful blonde hair, which I think might even be his natural color. And then you got Islam Makhachev, who's the opposite, who's boring as fuck, who blankets people, who absorbs less than 1 significant strike per minute, and who's about as boring and predictable as it gets. But predictable is good when you're a gambler, because when you got predictable fighters, you got predictable outcomes, and predictable outcomes lead to cashing tickets. So yeah, boring in a way, but not boring in another way. So this is such a great fight. So let me get these numbers up here for you on the screen. And let me get to this here just for a second. And we got 142 of you hanging out live in here. Amazing. We got Shamil Gamzatov in the room, our guy, UFC fighter. Most recently got knocked out by Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. But Shamil, welcome to you. Welcome to everybody here. We got a lot of Cyrillic writing in here. I have no idea what that means. We got Stellar saying hope all is well. What's good, man? We got sloppy seconds. This fight will end in a draw, causing another rematch. That would be something if it ended in a draw, man. Anyway, here we go. The last fight of the night. We've got Charles Oliveira against Islam Makhachev. These guys are the same height. It's Makhachev, who's a little bit younger, but it's Dubronx with a 4-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Islam at Eagles MMA and AKA. It's Shootbox Diego Lima for Charles Oliveira, who's the much more experienced fighter here with 19 more professional fights, 70 more minutes in the cage, about 2.5 more years as a pro, also 18 more fights at the UFC level, and about 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. And then we've got Oliveira, my God, a 91% finish rate as a pro. And at the UFC level, this guy has finished 90% of his wins, 19 of 21 wins inside the distance. Charles Oliveira is pure excitement. There are very few fighters in the history of the sport that are as versatile, as fun to watch, and as explosive as Charles Oliveira. And Charles has been finished in 7 of his 8 losses, and Islam in his only loss was finished. So in 9 combined losses for these guys, 8 of them have been inside the distance. So both of them can absolutely be finished. When it comes to the striking, that goes to Oliveira. He's the far more explosive striker. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and he brings serious power in his hands. He's got a 53% striking accuracy, 52% striking defense. He lands more than he absorbs, and he throws about the same amount as his opponents do. But he's just much more explosive and much longer and rangier on the feet. Islam lands 2.27, but only absorbs 0.85 significant strikes per minute. So that means he's only absorbed 93 significant strikes in 12 UFC fights. A 68.5% striking defense, and he's been knocked down only once in 12 fights, and that was the fight where he was knocked out. When it comes to the grappling, that's Makhachev. Makhachev is the king of control time. 52% control time for, less than 10% control time allowed, 88% takedown defense, almost a 66% takedown accuracy. It is an absolute video game type number that this guy puts up in the grappling numbers. 25 takedowns for, only 2 takedowns allowed. Charles has got 34 and is allowed 18, but only a 57% takedown defense. He can be taken down and held down. He will be throwing up submissions, and he will be dangerous wherever he is on the ground because of that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pedigree that he has. But what Islam and what Khabib did so well was they get you to the fence before they take you down. So you're not really out there in the middle of the cage grappling. You're always up against that cage, and it allows you to be able to dodge submission attempts. And when you've got your opponent's head and back on that cage, you know, they can't, all those submissions aren't available to them because they can't, that cage is in the way when they need to stretch out and try to extend your arm or your leg or get that triangle or whatever it is they're trying to get. So it is, you know, Islam's just done such a fantastic job of, when he takes down dangerous grapplers, of putting them in a spot where, you know, their offense just really isn't available to them. And he's always wrist riding. He's always, you know, getting that hook in. It's just a nightmare type of style to deal with. And because the pressure that both of these guys bring, I just see this fight finishing inside the distance. You know, Oliveira is so fast with his hands. And, you know, when the Kevin Lee fight, Kevin Lee goes in for a takedown and he just gets that guillotine and it is over so fast. So Islam, when he is shooting in, is going to really have to mind his P's and Q's, because Charles is so dangerous with his submissions, with his guillotines, with his darce, with his anaconda. Anything that he can get in that front choke series is something that could end your night if you get a sloppy shot on him. And he can cause you to take a sloppy shot because of the power that he's throwing your way when he's pressuring you. So it's just probably the most intriguing matchup for a championship that I remember seeing in a very long time. Both of these guys are so good at what they do. And if you're on that Oliveira side, it makes sense for you to say, yeah, Islam does his best work when he's taking dudes down and controlling them. But if he's going to be doing that over and over to Charles, he's going to keep putting himself into positions where he could get submitted. And if he's afraid of doing that, now, if Islam's afraid of shooting in, except for in certain situations here, because he's worried about the front choke series of Charles, then, you know, this fight will take place at distance longer. And that means that Charles' pressure and length advantage could lead to him landing big strikes on the feet. And he could knock out Makhachev like Adriano Martins did all those years ago. So it's really setting up for violence either way. While this is on the feet, Charles is going to be crazy dangerous. While Islam is wrestling and pressuring, he's going to be crazy dangerous. And I think somebody's going to get served in this fight. The strength of schedule, very close on ratio, but Charles is fighting the more experienced competition. The wins, very, very close for both of these guys. The losses much better for Oliveira than they are for Islam, because Islam's only loss is to a marginal guy in Martins. So this is a great fight. Now, I'm going to be picking Islam Makhachev to win this fight, and here's why. The defense. It's just the defense. You know, how do you score points against this guy? This is the amount of significant strikes that he's absorbed in every fight. The most is 13. And he's been in 5-round fights. The most amount of significant strikes that he's ever absorbed is 13. Let's see if there's any of these fights where he absorbed more significant strikes than there were minutes. This one was 15 minutes and he only absorbed 13. This one and this one are both 13. And that one was 4 rounds and that one was 3rd round. Dude, this guy, if you hit him 14 times in any fight, it would be a record. I mean, you know, it's just, I have to go with Islam Makhachev. Until somebody actually stops this guy, I won't believe that it's possible to happen. Nobody was able to stop Khabib. You know, nobody's really been able to stop Islam except for Martins, but that was a very long time ago. And you watch that fight, and Islam just got sloppy. He went way out over his own feet to throw a strike, rushed in, and got caught. It could absolutely happen, you know, to anybody. And Charles is live to do that against anybody, but Islam is so good defensively, and I think that pressure wrestling of his and that wet blanket type of approach that he takes really takes the sting out of his opponent's striking attacks, because they're so worried about the takedown. So I'm going to pick Islam Makhachev. I think he's going to win this fight by submission and get it done inside the distance. This is the best card of the year, you guys. So I hope that we all just print money on this card. I think there's a ton of great spots on this card, and we'll go over my track bets thus far. So for UFC 280, I've got 2 track bets that are max bets thus far. The first one is the fight doesn't go to decision for the main event, Oliveira Makhachev, 5-unit max bet. Got that when it opened on FanDuel at -172. So just a crazy line there. I had to empty both barrels on that one. If this goes the full 5, it goes the full 5. I'll be out 5 units, but Charles Oliveira fights have finished inside the distance 90% of the time. Charles Oliveira has never even seen a 4th round in his career, and Islam Makhachev has only seen a 4th round once in his career. Both of these guys are incredibly dangerous. Oliveira, I believe, is on an 11-fight win streak, and I believe he finished all 11 of those wins. And last 4 wins are inside the distance for Makhachev. I see this one being inside the distance, so I love that fight doesn't go to decision there. I also have the finish-only prop, so the scorecards equals no action. If this thing goes to decision, the bet is void. I get my money back. But if there is a finish, and it is Manon Fiorot that gets the finish, I cash a -205 for 5 units. I don't think that Katlyn Chookagian can finish an 8-ounce glass of water at the UFC level, so I don't see her ever finishing Manon Fiorot unless something crazy happens. So 5-unit max bet on the Fiorot finish-only prop, and then I've got a 2.5-unit bet on the under 2.5 for the Krylov Oezdemir fight, which I got at -126. That's a 2.5-unit bet, trying to win 2 units there. And then I'm also looking at the under 2.5 and the Dariush fight at +155. I'm potentially looking at the fight doesn't go to decision at +250 in this one here, which is 12% underpriced compared to the benchmark. That Oezdemir Krylov fight I am on. Were there any other time props? I like Karol Rosa by decision at -125. I like an AJ Dobson first round knockout prop for a quarter unit at +850. I can't see making a bet on Gordon Mokaev. I don't really see making a bet on Nurmagomedov, the Nurmagomedov fight. I kind of like the Muradov money line. And I'm considering a big bet on Petrosyan. Dillashaw, the plus money number sounds there, but I don't think I'm going to get to it. And I like Makhachev as a favorite here to beat Charles Oliveira. But that brings us, now that we've broken down all 13 fights and that now that we've looked over my track bets, one last order of business here, you guys. We're an hour and 55 minutes into the best card of the year, UFC 280. Hit that like button if you haven't already. It's time for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Which one of these guys is going out there and leaving in a body bag, right? And now that Mustafayev is off the card, we can't say that Nishikawa is going to get his ass shaved. And I'm not going to tell you that Malcolm Gordon is getting his ass shaved because you guys already know that. So we need to find somebody who's going to win a fight, win it violently, do it in style, and leave us saying, God damn, that was an ass shaving. Well, there is only one answer to that question, and it's a very easy one this week. It is going to be Peter No Mercy Yan to shave the hapless ass of Sugar Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean O'Malley. Let's look at the opponents for Sugar Sean O'Malley as a professional fighter. He has wins over UFC stalwarts Alfred Chookagian, Terrion Ware, 0-4, Andre Sukumtaw, 2-5, Jose Tego Quinones. Who did Quinones beat to get 5 wins? Who are those nobodies? He fought a 40-year-old Eddie Wineland, and then he lost to Marlon Vera. That was predictable. And then he beat Thomas Almeida, who was on a 4-fight losing streak. He beat Chris Montino, 0-2, and then he had a win over the flyweight, Raulian Paiva. The only 2 fighters that have been legitimate that he's fought, Pedro Munoz, he lost the first round to, and Marlon Vera finished him in the very first round. Yeah, it's going to be Petrosyan. No mercy. I think he's going to finish this clown. I think Sean's way in over his head here. And going to Abu Dhabi to fight this guy is a big mistake. I'd be surprised if he even showed up and made weight. But if he does, I think he's in for a long night. And I think he's going to get his ass shaved in brutal fashion. You guys, got to thank all of you for coming out tonight, for hanging out. 137 live viewers for Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week. Petrosyan, considering a max bet at -250 for 5 units to win 2. Just the level of competition that these 2 guys has faced is not even in the same stratosphere here. As we see that Petrosyan's got wins over guys like Sandhagen, Jose Aldo, Uriah Faber, Jimmy Rivera, John Dodson, Douglas Silva de Andrade, Jin Soo Sun, and Teruto Ishihara were the easy ones. But you take those guys out, and his opponents are 55 and 33 in their UFC careers. And Faber was a champion. Aldo was a champion. Sandhagen could be a future champion. And then he's got 2 fights against Aljamain Sterling. One of them I think he won, and the other one he was winning. I think he's a much better fighter here. I think he's going to shave ass on Saturday. And that brings us to the end of the show. Got to thank each and every one of you guys for coming out and hanging out here on a Tuesday night for Just the Tip with your Uncle Weezy. You can find me tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 6 p.m. Central Time for the DFS show. You can find me tomorrow on DFS by the Numbers channel, I believe at 7 o'clock Central Time for Best Bet, where we're going to go over our best bet for every fight on the card. And then you can also find me on the Couch Warriors channel, where I'll be breaking down these fights with the Couch Warrior. Liam picks fights, Wiz Bets, and I believe my guy Patrick, too, Addicted to Combat. So very busy week for me this week. And then I'm going on vacation on Friday, going down to Miami, Florida, and I'll be back on Monday. So I will see you guys all tomorrow. God bless each and every one of you. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 280. Good night, everybody.